45-year-old David McCallum and Willie Stuckey just got their convictions overturned by a judge. McCallum spent nearly 30 years in jail, and he was totally innocent. Their story is a classic case of police not caring about the truth and just trying to pin the case on the first people of interest that they found. So the two were arrested in 1985, and they admitted to killing and kidnapping 20-year-old Nathan Blenner after they were fed confessions by police. Now, this is something where if you don't read about this all the time, you're not familiar with this, it might seem like something out of a movie and something that doesn't actually happen. But the reality is, this happens all the time where police officers basically feed confessions to unsuspecting people and unknowing people. And then they read these statements, and then next thing you know, they're locked up, and that's used as evidence against them in court. So both of them actually recanted their confessions when they found out what just happened, but they were still convicted of the murder and sentenced to 25 years to life. So again, this is a stunning story. Now, we did a similar story recently where a man was told to read a confession written by somebody else, and then when he finished, he asked the cops, "Can I go now?" See, apparently you're allowed to use trickery and deceit to such a high level where you could just tell them, hey, read this thing we wrote for you. They read it, and they don't even know. The guy honestly didn't know. He thought, well, after I read this, they'll let me go. So he read a confession, and they said, aha, you confessed, and then they locked him up. And then he was found guilty too. So again, this is insane. These poor people have no clue what's going on, but they're just led down a path in the exact wrong direction just so that these guys can nab somebody and they can get a confession. And of course, when it comes to the prosecutors, they just care about how good their conviction rate is. So the entire system is fucked up in so many ways. And the most heartbreaking aspect of this story is that one of the guys, Stuckey, died in jail. So an innocent man died serving time for a crime he didn't commit. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. Furthermore, I give you another example. A Texas man was also just released from prison after spending 9 years in there. 4 of those years were on death row, by the way. So there are 2 things to take away from this story. Number 1 is, this is why the death penalty is ridiculous. See, conservatives like to just create a straw man about the beliefs of liberals and progressives on the issue of the death penalty, where they say, oh, look at these liberals defending serial killers and rapists and all these terrible, terrible criminals that really don't belong on this earth. To which I respond, oh, no. I'm not defending them at all by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'm at the front of the line when it comes to wanting to get justice against people who, for example, we did a story on SecularTalk where this crazy man would stab little girls to death, and that's the only time he could achieve an orgasm is when he's stabbing little girls to death. Monster of all monsters. Other stories where people would cannibalize kids and then flush their intestines down the toilet and eat the rest of them. I mean, just, there are brutal, hideous, disgusting people on this planet, there's no doubt. And that's the thing. Nobody has sympathy for them. The natural reaction, the biological and innate reaction of everybody, whether they're liberal, conservative, whatever, they all look at that guy and say, God, we want to get that son of a bitch back. This is ridiculous. This is terrible. We need justice, and we need to revenge, retribution. We all have that natural reaction. So it's not about, hey, we disagree with you about that natural reaction. It's about, that person's not the issue. The issue is what happens when innocent people get through the cracks of the system, because we're only humans, we're not perfect, and then we end up putting an innocent person or innocent people to death. See, that's the problem right there, is if you say, I'm okay with the death penalty, not only in theory but in practice, what you're saying is, I'm okay with sometimes taking my tax dollars and murdering people. Murdering the wrong people. So then what makes you different from the barbarians that we're putting to death? I mean, the whole idea of, we give you the death penalty if you murder somebody, so apparently murdering somebody is wrong. We're clear on that, right? So your response to that is, well, let's us murder people, and sometimes we'll get the wrong people, so we'll do the exact same thing as the people who we're killing. So doesn't that mean we should put you to death too? I mean, that's the paradox of the death penalty, is that it's this idea, well, to teach people killing is wrong, we're going to kill people. Okay, that seems to fail a basic logic class. That just doesn't, it doesn't add up. Do you not see that? How do you not see that? But again, I'm the kind of person where I say, in theory, I'm 100% in favor of the death penalty. Just by virtue of the fact that, well, they killed first, and they did it in a grotesque, horrible way, and we're really eliminating a problem if we kill certain people, okay, where I think that's the just punishment. But the problem is, again, since we're humans and we're fallible, sometimes we get the wrong people. So the trade-off is, I mean, there was one study that said, what, 4% of people on death row were innocent? So what, we're going to have a system where 4% of the time we murder somebody? I mean, that's insanity. We need to stop that system immediately. So that's the first point to make about this. And the second one is, we have a solution to the specific situation that we're talking about with this story. Okay, that solution exists, or it's very close to a total solution. I'm sure some things will still get screwed up and there will still be some problems. But as the Innocence Project lays out, they say, if you make the electronic recording of police interrogations mandatory in all cases and available for people to see, on command, or when the public needs to see it, or when somebody involved in a case needs to see it in the courtroom or whatever, well, then that would, tremendously drop these cases of abuse, because you would only be able to use trickery and deceit, which, by the way, the cops are legally allowed to use, to a certain extent. You wouldn't be able to totally coerce somebody into saying they killed somebody when they didn't kill somebody. So, oftentimes when we talk about law enforcement, the answer really does come back to videotape. The answer comes back to, well, if you have them on camera and you see what they're doing, and they know that there's going to be, the watchers are being watched. Remember, the whole idea of police and law enforcement, well, they're the watchers. They will protect you, okay? Well, who's going to watch the watchmen? Well, now we have an answer. If you videotape them, then there will be watchers for the watchmen. If there's some weird thing that happens and some case comes up and people think, well, that's not a real confession. They basically falsified a confession out of that person. Well, if we have it on videotape, we can see one way or the other, and we'll know when we can stop gross situations like this of pure injustice where we have innocent people locked up for really, really long periods of time. Because the biggest concern is, how many more of these people are there? How many more David McCallums and Willie Stuckeys are there out there? My guess is there's a hell of a lot more, and we're never going to be able to get all the people who are innocent out of jail. It takes so much time and so much effort, and not enough people are working on it. So how about we nip the problem in the bud from here on out and start recording these things by law in every circumstance?